So, yeah, I'm so happy that she introduced us. So, we have this opportunity to share with Lithuanian women about you, about the retreat, about the whole, need of listening to your body, listening to the needs of your body, of your mental health, of your emotional health, of your, physical health. And I think you're the right person to give us some advice. What do you say?
Yeah, I mean, I am first and foremost a woman, a mother, a wife, a business owner, and a yoga teacher first and foremost as well. And so, what's really wonderful for me is that my work and my practice has given me so much
Mhm.
personal insight, but also so much wisdom that I've been able to share with friends, with girlfriends, with my sister. I've got a prenatal session that I'm doing with her on Sunday via Zoom because she's in Australia, and I get to work with women. We had an amazing practice today with women and men and couples coming together because it's Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day.
Valentine's Day.
And just over and over again, using this, what I perceive to be this really powerful tool that is accessible to all of us, that I think has a lot of misconception around it. And I think women can gain so much from having this as a practice that they can use, experience, and take with them to support every aspect of their life. So for me, yoga is something that it infuses everything else. It helps us be healthier. It helps us feel like we're more energized. It helps us expand our life span and our health span and our longevity. It really nourishes our relationships with the people that are most important in our lives. It helps us navigate communication. It helps us navigate our own sense of self and our own sense of strength. And it creates incredible opportunities for synchronicities and for manifestation. And so it's wildly powerful and wildly extraordinary. And so I'm so happy to share with you, the ways onto which it can be more relevant and more hopefully something that after we're having this conversation, people can be like, I definitely need to try that or try it again. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because there's no sin in getting back to things which you have tried already before, because maybe there was a wrong timing or you were different. So you never should be afraid of getting back to what you started before, tried before and didn't work, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's tricky because like everything in life, normally we try stuff. We're always trying new things. And the moment that something doesn't resonate, we're like, done. Nope.
Not for
Like you'll
me, not for me.
yeah, not for me. Like I don't do yoga, I do Pilates, or I don't do yoga, I do something else. And I'm like, oh, you have no idea. And I feel for these people. So I've spent the better half of my career trying to like break in people that have essentially had either negative experiences with yoga
Mm.
or have no idea or zero interest and zero insight as to what it can actually do for their whole world and their whole quality of life. And so my whole objective is like, I want to take you and I want to allow you to experience something you've never experienced before so that hopefully you can have this deep connection with something so profound that it really does ricochet into every other part of your life.
But look at that, how amazing is that? And you, being there in France, but originally being an Australian girl,
Yeah.
traveling the world and teaching people this amazing thing of yoga. But could you tell me a few words to me and to my listeners, a bit of a, your story? Because I believe that you were not born with yoga in your palms. So how did come yoga to your life? If you can share your personal experience, maybe something happened
Yeah.
because I believe that usually yoga to the person who is a teacher, especially, comes for the reason and in perfect timing after something. So
Oh,
I'm curious, what's your story?
we're like the biggest head cases. It's like you go like see a psychologist because they're the most mad, and see a yoga therapist because they've probably had lots of stuff happen in their life that's brought them to where they
I have lots of stuff happening in my life as well, and I don't even do yoga. So,
are. Not
Yes,
yet.
yes.
Not yet. No, I found, no, you're right. I think, like most people, it's rare. You're very lucky if you grow up in an environment where you have, especially in our generation, it's becoming more prevalent. But certainly, people who you've had parents or teachers or people in your life that have taught you these skills, which is extraordinary. But for most of us in the West, we come to yoga through a lens of deep challenge. And in short, I was like every 17, 18-year-old formative human being, just trying to find my way in the world and traveling around the world, and was originally working in fashion from a really young age, and in various ways. And it was the 90s, like late 90s, early 2000s. So we're talking like lots of serious toxic imagery and self-imagery. And it was like just
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
all of the things, you know, from body dysmorphia to anxiety to addiction to all the things that were synonymous with the industry, and also where I was in my life, being lost and trying to find myself. And I traveled from the age of 17. I bought a ticket and chased a musician around the world,
So
and
romantic.
it was wild. And so took off and trying to find him. And the best thing that came out of it was this is so surreal retelling this story. But in short, I left to go to Hawaii when I was 18, and was traveling around. And the moment that I landed in Hawaii, essentially, I met this mad Mexican on the side of the road, and I moved in with him the next day, completely platonic. And that day that I moved in, he invited a group of friends over. And
Mm.
I'd practiced Bikram yoga before.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people come into yoga on a really high intensity physical level. At least that's what's required to break people in to the
Mhm.
practice, is to have something that's going to push them so that they can feel like they've accomplished something, because this is how we tend to operate as
Okay.
human beings. And so I came into it on that level and got really sick, actually, and realized quite quickly that this practice, as little as I knew about it, it was insanely amazing for a moment in time, and then and very dangerous in other ways and shapes or forms. So I kind of took a back seat because I'd gotten quite sick from this practice, and then met this guy who had come to this dinner party in Hawaii where I was living at the time. And he just had a presence. You know, those people you're like, I just want to be around you. I just want to sit next to you. I just need to be close to you. He barely spoke, but he was such a grounded, calm individual. And I really was unrealizingly just wanting that. I was wanting that at such an early age. And I traveled around the world and did various stints working in ashrams, and it was such a surreal time. But I definitely didn't resonate with yoga until I came back and I had my first child when I was 24, so I was quite young.
Mm.
And my then marriage dissolved 2 years after he was born, and I was in a very different place, a very sad place, a very grieving place, a very lost place. I was trying to find myself within, you know, essentially a toddler at a young age.
Yeah.
Everybody else is running around and having these really hedonistic, you know, fun lives and
Mm.
building their careers. And he was like going, how am I going to do this? And I took myself to a yoga class, and I happened to be go to an amazing studio, and just by chance. And at the end of this practice, and it was with a wonderful teacher. Shout out to her, Dominique Salerno, an incredible teacher. She runs the Australian Yoga Academy, or used to. And I went to this practice, and at the end of the practice, there was mirrors along the side of the wall.
Mm.
And I rolled over and I saw myself in the mirror, and I just cried and cried and cried. And I realized that for the first time in my whole life, there was a woman, there was a girl, there was a child that I had never seen and loved. And
Mhm.
for the first time, I was like, I love this person that I see, and I want to take deep care of this person. And this was at 24, 25 years of age. And that was it. It set the precedent for how I felt. I touched upon an intimacy with myself that I'd never had with anyone, or certainly not in my own company. And I just wanted that over and over again. So I kept coming, which led to me taking my first foundational teacher training. And then I was still working in fashion and events for quite a long time, on and off. And then, interestingly enough, it was 2000 and, oh, this is going to sound terrible. I want to say 2011, but maybe it wasn't 2011. I'd been teaching part time,
Mm.
and this is terrible that I should know this historically. There was a huge bombing that was happening in the Middle East of a school, ironically, actually in Palestine at the time. And I was working in this event in the five-star resort in the middle of the Whitsunday Islands in Australia. And I remember this happening on the news, and me just thinking, what am I doing here? Like, what am I doing? Nothing that I was doing in my work had meaning. I was running and having this wild, beautiful, exotic, extremely fanciful life, but it didn't have any intrinsic meaning at all. And I quit my job the next day, and I had no idea what I was going to do. I just
Oh,
went, going to be held as long as I continue on my practice. So I ended up collaborating with some people in Melbourne, where I was living at the time. We put on this mass meditation to raise awareness for peace, which ended up linking up with something that Deepak Chopra was doing at the time. And it's just sort of snowballed essentially from there. I just never looked back. And I've never, ever left my career, my purpose, my dharma, my whole intention on this life, which is just to teach and keep teaching. Because all I felt, that same girl that saw herself in the mirror and fell in love with that girl that she saw, my whole goal has been to enable other people to have that same experience.
it's
So,
beautiful.
well, it
And
is.
yeah, and it sounds like from that moment when you saw the girl in the mirror, just everything started falling into its proper place, because it sounded like you were like, in search of different, well, we can say this popular phrase, like search of happiness at some point as a
Yeah,
whole.
just
different-
deep sense of meaning. For me, it was
Exactly.
all about meaning, trying to find meaning. Why am I here? What am I supposed to be doing here? And how can I help? And I felt that the moment that I was helping in some way, shape, or form, my
Yeah.
whole quality of life just increased. And everything that I've experienced since then, everything challenge that I've experienced since then, if it were not for me having my yoga practice, it
You,
would have been significantly different, the outcome. And so I just think and feel that this practice has the capacity to really just be everything from a therapy to a support system to an incredible way for us to reach into the most deepest parts of ourselves and feel things we didn't realize we could feel before.
Mhm.
That's
Because
why.
yeah, and that's sounds amazing as well because usually at least here a little bit also what I speak with my international friends, but especially here in Lithuania, most of the time, especially people who just started touching a tad of yoga, they see it more of a like bodily practice for flexibility, for muscle strength, and maybe a little bit if you don't skip it 5 minutes for shavasana, the thing which you'd rather skip because you're in a rush and it's a waste of time, I showing this on
Absolutely.
purpose.
Absolutely.
So would you show us a different angle how you would see yoga, and is this shavasana a waste of time really?
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because my methodology of teaching is has been something that I've been building over a long period of time, and it's quite unique to how I teach. And I'm a big advocate that most people that are coming into a room are coming in with an energy of some description. So I work always with energy. And most of the time, we're all feeling some semblance of the same expression of that energy. And I'm a big advocate that in order for people to feel, even get close to feeling the benefits of what a yoga practice can give them, you have to break them in physically first. And by that, I mean, so my practice has a lot of Kundalini Kriya. So we marry breath and movement and sound together. We move quite vigorously. We normally have fantastic music. And it's to just drop people immediately into their body.
Hmm.
In yoga, we can't separate the body from our emotional and mental state. They're not separate and they are absolutely intertwined. But in order for us to drop into states of ease and peace and softening and freedom, you have to expel or transmute that energy that's inside. So most people might be coming into a space and they're feeling pissed off or frustrated because they've had an argument with their spouse, or
Yeah.
they've had a meeting gone wrong, or they're rushing because they're late, and or they haven't had enough sleep. And that's most of the population is operating on that
Yeah.
cycle daily. Okay. And so what my role is to essentially stop, drop immediately into your physiology, get you breathing, get you feeling into something that's allowing you to build energy up inside of the body so that we can then settle it down again. So I kind of equate it to sort of shaking up, a glass of fizzy water and then allowing it to just dissipate. But it's really essential that you move that energy first. Otherwise,
Mhm.
people won't walk out of your room feeling something. And if they don't walk out of my room feeling something, then I haven't done my job well, you
Huh.
know? And so for me, the Shavasana is really the beginning point. Yoga doesn't start until you land into a state of stillness. Most people think like, oh yeah, I do yoga. No, you don't do yoga. You're just doing physical movements. What we do in our practice is we work with somatics. We
Mm.
work with Kundalini yoga, as I mentioned before. We work a little bit with Tantra, a little bit with Vinyasa yoga, all of these modalities for people that are listening and are like, what is she talking about? When you put them all together, it's basically we use movement, we use breath, we
Yeah.
use the synchronicity of creating sound, and we basically are taking whatever we're feeling and we're moving it, transmuting it, and turning it into something else so that at the end of the practice, oh my God, I can actually sit still and it feels so good and it feels
Oh,
so incredible. And did I just do that for myself? Am I actually able to find the resources within me to feel how I'm feeling right now, which might be maybe exaltation, maybe peace, maybe love, maybe easefulness, whatever it is. But most of the time, that's how my students leave the practice. And so for me, I realized that yoga is like a conduit for this energy.
mm,
So I feel for everybody that's gone to a yoga practice and just been like, meh, because when that happens, I do feel that the experience probably hasn't done its due diligence or the teacher hasn't done their due
mm.
diligence. And so, um, what we want at the end of a practice is for people's energy to feel essentially balanced. We want to feel like you're clear. And so if you've come into the space with a hangover or a headache, or you've come in feeling drained, or you're emotionally overwhelmed, or your
Or your
cycle
head is
is
like spinning with ideas and thoughts and right?
all that stuff,
Yeah.
that there is clarity
Mm.
and ease. And
Even
it's
the way you say it, I'm like, hmm.
it's so delicious,
Yeah, exactly. The right word is delicious.
so delicious. And we're not trying to again, ever, if you ever go to a yoga practice and people are trying to like positive psychology you into things and be like, it's all good and everything's amazing, you're again, it's like, nope, that's not how it is.
Nope.
This is about taking all of us together. And this is what we do when we're together in a practice is we're all here, we're sharing space. And how can we take how we're feeling today, which might be really heavy or really chaotic or really overwhelmed, and how can we all come to a state of just feeling better? Just feel
Exactly.
just feeling lighter, just feeling more energized, and just feeling like that we're just happier to be in our skin. And I think we spend a lot of time feeling alternative versions of that, feeling lethargy or gross or sticky or stagnant or and we think there's something wrong. And so much of the time there isn't something wrong. There really isn't. We just don't know what to do with this sensation that we're feeling in our body a lot of the time. And we feel so frustrated with ourselves for feeling it.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time, it's just about knowing what do I have that I can help turn this into something else that's going to help me feel really good in this moment. So I don't know if I actually answered your question particularly well, but
But I got the idea, and thank you for saying that. We're oftentimes not allowing ourselves to feel a certain way or to think certain thoughts and then feel guilty for that. And I should be resting, but then I have this dizziness with all these overwhelming thoughts and everything. So, what I heard from you, and which leads to my next question, is that I hear that there's also a magic of being together with a group of people who share the same, I don't know, needs, or even different needs and
yeah, yeah,
problems and everything. But the whole communal energy is different than you do practice, with all due respect, yoga at home or with a, I don't know, a Zoom teacher. That's better than nothing. Of course, I'm not an expert actually here, but I'm just contemplating with what you said. Like, but when you're in a group, or for example, in a retreat where you spend a week or 10 days with, women who share the same, you know, needs and thoughts and feelings and everything. So can you expand more about this doing this together thing? I think there's a magic in that as well, right?
fully agree. And it's so beautiful that you touch on that because even this morning, it was a cooler meaning community. And so it was so much about all of us being together. And after we left the practice, so many people wrote to me and were like, that was just magical. And in that room, you've got introverts, people that like ugh, don't touch me, people that
Yeah.
want to be left alone. You've got everybody sharing space. And yet, irrespective of whomever you associate your personality type or disposition with, everybody is craving that. So my physical classes are full all the time because I truly believe that today, more than ever, we are feeling alone. And I think a lot of people, I'm not generalizing even with gender, but I think that people are feeling states of loneliness and they're deeply afraid to admit that.
And
And
paradoxically, sorry to interrupt, but just I don't want to lose my thought. And paradoxically, because we have so many means of connection now with all this internet and phone, but we've never been so alone than today. Sorry to interrupt, but just wanted to share
not
that.
at all.
Yeah.
I think that we've misappropriated connection
Mm,
with technology. And in yoga, connection is something that is human.
mm.
And so today, I think more than ever, and you can speak to incredible AI developers at Google X, and they'll all say the same things. There is a skill that is going to be extremely important, I think, for all of us, and that is our humanness.
Oh, wow, what a beautiful word, humanness.
Our
Mhm.
humanness. And so when people come together in a room, sharing space, sharing thoughts, sharing quiet, sharing ideas, or just sharing movement, sharing these parts of ourselves that just allow us to feel safe and vulnerable. And we don't need to talk necessarily. We can just be energetically in the same space as other people. There is something that happens that can't be recreated through Zoom. Like, as much as I'm so happy to see you and I'm grateful for the fact that
Same.
technology gifts us this,
Yes.
I desperately would love to be in the same space as you. Exactly. And be able to wrap my hands around you. That tacticity, which is why I don't teach online. I have my private clients in the US and Australia that I work with. But I really struggle even with my private clients. Like, I'll normally fly over and just say, okay, we're just going to have a week together because I just we are in a deficit of touch, and we're in a deficit of feeling like we're not alone, that we can be understood. And so retreats, yoga communities, and there's a lot of organizations around the world right now, especially political institutions, that are really doing a great job at trying to dismantle community. They're like, you just stay over there and you protect you and don't take care of anybody else because it's every man for himself. And that is devastating and dangerous. And I do believe that part of the, or let's say, rebellion or resistance is creating spaces for connection
Mm.
as much as we can. And I get so much. There's no way I could stop what I'm doing. I said to my husband once, I was like, I don't need to be paid to do this. And he's like, oh no, it would be helpful. I think it would be helpful. And I was like, but I don't, I don't. I will do this till the
It's
end of
just
my
because
life.
you feel so much while doing that, right?
And I receive so much. It's
Exactly.
reciprocity, and we crave that. We
Mm.
crave, I think, as a species today, authentic human connection.
God, thank you for saying that. It's such a big topic,
It really is. And the question is, how do we create authentic connection?
Yeah.
And I feel like the way that we do that is by deliberately being inside of spaces, whether it's in retreat or in a yoga community or in a studio community or but in a community where these aren't people that necessarily know you intimately,
Yeah.
but you all are there to experience something that is deeply intimate, deeply personal, and deeply interpersonal. And when that happens, you create incredible connections with people that are immediate and deep and kind of cut through all the layers of stuff. And this is what people are craving when they're dating. It's what people are craving in their marriages and relationships. It's what people are craving in their friendships. And I receive so much authentic connection from my yoga community
Mhm.
that I've spent the last few years, and this is really honest, I think it's so important, really cleansing and taking a big inventory. Sorry if you're hearing those beeps, but that's
It's
my
fine.
what's
Don't
going on.
worry.
But I've had to cleanse friendships, and
But
it's yeah,
believe.
but it's not an easy task. It's a really
What?
challenging task being like, I love you and
Mm-hmm.
Is no longer serving the deepest part of myself, which wants authentic relationships. And the way that people are like, but how do you know if a relationship is authentic? It's a person and an interaction that when you move away from that, you feel really good about who you are as a human being.
Mm-hmm.
You feel celebrated, you don't feel energetically drained.
Yeah.
And you feel that that person feels the same because it's always a mirror, in and of
Yeah.
itself.
Yeah.
And so that's why I think being in retreat spaces like the one that we're going to be in Bali, I mean, it's such
Yeah.
an incredible group of women who would never normally find each other on the planet, who,
Exactly.
by being in this incubated space,
Mm-hmm.
have this incredible opportunity to learn, to grow, to connect, and to develop quite instantaneous, immediate relationships. So, my closest friends in the world are people that I've either met through yoga, they've either been my students, they've either been on retreat with me. Even Ava, I was like, and it's beautiful because for me, I don't think that friendships are something that need to, take a long time. I think that they can be very immediate.
Because
And
right away, you see the person and you know that's the person, just
that's it. And it's just reciprocated, like, and when you're in. And I think that as we grow and as we age, um, these states of loneliness are becoming more and more prevalent, especially I see it with women and men in their 40s and 50s who are changing their careers or
yeah,
making decisions about their life and looking around and taking a real inventory and being like, do I really feel like I know myself and I know the people that I'm spending time with? What is this?
yeah,
Like, what am I doing? And trying to make sense of it. So
yeah.
I think that authentic connection and human touch and humanness is so vital. And I think that if we can create opportunities for more of that, everything in our personal world and our interpersonal world, from our work, our career, our families, it just becomes so much more and
I
so
know.
much more meaningful.
And then again, from all these places, for example, yoga groups, or especially the retreats where you go abroad, for
Mm.
example, us from Lithuania going to your Bali retreat, or the one retreat you have with Yava, my dear friend, about depressed and sleep in Sri Lanka. So this is an opportunity where you can disconnect from your daily, worries and troubles and questions and cooking and napping and whatever, and then just focus on what you came there for. And what's the beautiful thing, I'm gonna share quickly my story. When I went to the retreat to Bali, it was like I think 3 years ago for the first time ever in my life. And I was like look at my body language. I'm trying to reflect it. I don't have any expectations. I'm not there to search for friends. And I will just watch, not share too much. I'm just, watching. And after 2 days, I was like, what? With everybody? So this is the magic. Even my jacket fell off. So you know what happens with the magic of retreat? Somehow it's just something different. Something changes in you, around you, the way you see it, the way you talk, the way you move, the way you love. So, there's something magic about retreat, and I don't know how to put it in words. Maybe you can help me. But of course, you understood what I mean.
Yeah, I absolutely. And it's beautiful because the last wasn't the last retreat. The last one we did was here, but the last retreat that I'd done in Indonesia last year,
Mm.
um, I was just reading over some videos of some beautiful, like just women that were really open at the end of the retreat to do a testimonial and how they were feeling. And
Yeah.
just watching them, it was like they were so, all of them. And these are like A-type women that had come into the space, were speaking a million miles an hour, were
Yeah.
highly strung, or just, had so much going on. And all of them were just like, it was just so amazing. It
If
just
the
felt,
pace changes.
yeah, the whole physiology changes.
Yes.
And all of them, which was so fascinating, if you ask them, what was the most wonderful thing for you this week? The first thing everybody said was the women, hands down. And most of them came on their own. So
Hmm.
this wasn't like friends coming that had a
Exactly.
connection or pre-existing. And they were like the people, and they were not going there to spend time with other people. They were all coming to be like, I just want to break from the
Yeah.
planet. I don't want to,
Alone.
yeah, I don't want to, just don't make me interact. Like, let me
Yeah.
just be with myself.
Exactly what I meant. Exactly my words.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
yeah,
Yes.
really, really. And I think that again, I don't look at our retreat programs as like something that's an indulgence or a self-care thing. I look at it as like, if you want to fully transform yourself in 1 week, come and spend a week with us, because I guarantee you there's no way you'll leave that experience not feeling
Uh-huh.
healthier, more vibrant, more beautiful, more engaged, more in touch with that part of yourself that you're like, oh, she's wonderful. Like, I don't know what this is, but I want more of this. And
Yes.
you'll carry it back into your life. And it's wonderful. And sometimes it can be surreal, because most people then come back out of retreat. And I can only speak even for myself. And I'm like, okay, and you make a decision. You make a decision about something you're working on, or you make a decision about where you're living, or you just have so much clarity and you're inspired, but mostly you feel so empowered and
Yeah.
so relaxed. And
Mhm.
they're two qualities that I think we're all deeply looking for, to feel empowered, but at the same time really grounded in our decisions, really grounded in who we are as individuals. And I think a lot of the time why this is so powerful, and you touched on it when you said in retreat, is because, like you said, you're not experiencing your life through the lens or filtration system of
Yeah.
all the responsibilities and all the default relationships that we're in, whether it's the one with our children or the one with our spouse. And we also forget how much time we spend with other human beings daily, and how exhausting that can actually be as well.
Mhm.
And so when you're on retreat, again, you're not being asked to sit around and share. I don't know if you were on your retreat, but you're not being asked to sit around and divulge all your life's details. It's just sharing space and energy and quiet and beautiful experiences with other people. And when
Yes.
you do that, it's so lovely, because you're also experiencing yourself separate from all of your identifications and your attachments. So people don't see you as a businesswoman and a podcaster and a fashion designer and a mother and a successful person. There's no, and so all of those layers, and also any of those socially, constrictions, those social constrictions that prevent us from connecting with other people,
Yes.
because they're either inaccessible or we compare ourselves. Do you know? It's all
So true.
home.
And it's so liberating to
Yeah.
go there without any labels.
Mm.
I would call them labels because you're
I
there. Like in this movie, I'm just a girl. That was a
Yeah,
romantic part, is standing in front of you and asking you to love me. But that's similar. I'm just a girl who wants to, disconnect from trouble and you just, relax into what's happening there in Bali or Sri Lanka or whatever. I'm just a girl. But no, here, at least for myself, like as you said, a mother, a businesswoman, a public person, a public speaker. Yes, with all these labors, at some point I never know, well, like, so who am I? You
yeah.
know?
Where is that girl? Like, where is that girl? And that girl isn't all of those labels. That girl is fun and curious and deeply loving and super kind. And we lose touch with these qualities that we have. We
Yes.
really do. We don't mean to. But when you're not getting constant affirmation, especially from, and I mean, I love my babies, but I'm not constantly having my babies being like, you are just an extraordinary human being.
And every day, twice. No, I hear you, Jess. Oh my God, of
You
course.
know? and
Yeah, yeah,
so it's just so wonderful to be in neutral space,
yeah,
neutral territory with other humans who are feeling equally safe to just be in their neutrality, to only share what feels relevant to where they are and what they're feeling, and to bypass all of the labels and responsibilities, and to see what you feel inside of that environment. It's very freeing. It's
yeah.
very freeing. And
And sorry, uh-huh.
no, no, please continue.
No, just wanted to add that when you're in the space and sharing, with other women story, or even not sharing, just, soaking in the environment and what they're sharing, sometimes you're healing without even doing anything because somebody is mirroring your story, which maybe you don't feel so safe at that moment to share. Or maybe it's, painful or you're shy or anything, but sometimes just the group of women, I mean, always group of women meet on purpose, not by accident.
Like
This
the
girl,
Mm.
exactly in this position, for example, in Bali with Jess. and,
Mm.
sharing her story, and then it resonates with my heart, and it's so liberating again, because we lose the labels and we're so open to hear another person. So it's also really healing. This is what I've experienced.
It is healing. You're right. And there's a collective resonance.
Oh,
So
that's what it is. Mm.
it's collective resonance. And
Mm.
so I'll give you another example on
Yep.
an individualized level. Most of the retreats that I've run, beautiful friendships have blossomed. And you'll always, after, somebody will come up and go, this particular woman, or, this particular guy, they'll say, like, I just really connect with them. I really resonate with them. And they're so excited because it's like being 5 or 6 years old and meeting your friend for the first time, and you
Yeah.
realize this is possible. And a lot of the time, like schools, we need to get out of the immediate environment that we're in, because we forget there's a whole planet of incredible humans out there to meet. There's a whole planet, but most of the time we're here,
Yeah.
managing here, and thinking like, well, I'm kind of confined to my family, my environment, the places I go, the things that I do, and the people that I spend time with. And we just forget, like, you can still have extraordinary, new, beautiful relationships. And it also, full circle, goes back to what you said about that not feeling alone that we talked about at the beginning of the practice. When we were in Bali recently, I was walking up a volcano with a girl who began to share, just because we're in experience. It's natural. We're walking and we're sharing this time. And she hadn't, we hadn't spoken much during the retreat. We had this beautiful moment walking up the volcano, and she shared so much. And I then shared so much. And at the end, she was like, she knew what to do. We're watching the sunrise together. And she went, I know what I need to do now. And if we hadn't have had that conversation, she wouldn't have felt seen. She wouldn't have felt heard. She wouldn't have felt safe to share. And a lot of the time, it's easier to feel that sense of safety, ironically, when we're in the space of people where there's a dimension of anonymity, where we
Yeah.
don't have that familiarity of
Yeah.
people that are like, yeah, but you're you. So, like, you're
Yeah.
fixed, and that's who your disposition is. And this happens a lot on retreat. People will just say, I really like that person, and they'll continue that relationship. And
Mhm.
it's wonderful, because they wouldn't have met, because they come from different lands and different places. And that's something that you can't get in many contexts, I think, today. And that's why I find retreats so specifically beautiful and wonderful and transformative in that way, is that you can just feel held and seen without there needing to be any um you're not enforced, you're not being told, you're not being, feeling like you're having to share yourself. It just feels safe and natural,
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
know and beautiful. And when I leave retreats, like, selfishly, I can't wait to get to Bali, because I know that at the end of that week I'm going to be like, I am just so radiant. Like, I know how it feels at the end of these weeks, and you just feel so good and so happy and so healthy, and it's just wonderful. So I never really anticipated that I wanted to run retreats. For me, it was quite selfish. I was like, I want to go here. I want to go here. That's pretty much it. And I was like, so I'm going to take a group of people here. Who wants to come here? And everyone was like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm going to go there. And so, whether it's Ibiza, whether it's, even being in Chamonix, whether it's being in Australia, or whether it's being in, we want to explore Morocco. But it's, for me, I go, this is where I want to go. Now I realize too that there's places around the world, like Sri Lanka,
Mm.
like Indonesia, like India, where you can really have a profound experience and feel something that is very specific and particular to that country, or energy in that side of that country.
Yeah.
And so now I tend to be more uh, just more articulated in making sure that the places that we're going are going to nourish the energy that I want to create.
Mm.
You can go, I mean, there's so many people running retreats today. Everybody runs yoga retreats, and you can go to your retreat for anything. And that's wonderful.
Yeah.
But a lot of people I speak to are like, yeah, I went on a yoga retreat, and it was nice, and the teacher was nice, and we had massage, and it was lovely,
Yeah.
but there was something missing. And I'm like, there was something missing, and I wonder what that is. And I think a lot of the time it's just not creating space and time for connection
Yeah.
and fun and deep movement, where the person that's facilitating that retreat is deeply engaged with the group, and wants to be a part of the experience, rather than just coming in and teaching physical yoga practice and then, flitting off again, which
Yeah.
unfortunately I think does happen. I hear it a lot. So,
Yeah, I hear you because one more thing, what you mentioned before, similar to what you're speaking now, that when you go there with, as we spoke, without labels, without expectations, being really open, what I figured that you meet, it's not the transformation what is most important. I think most important is that there you meet yourself naked, and then you like that person and you bring him home. So basically, you go there to meet yourself. Does that make any sense?
fully, completely. And you said it really beautifully. And that's why when we were talking about that feeling of, I truly believe if you ask me, what is yoga? And I would say,
Mm.
well, yoga is many things to many people. For me, it's a practice that allows me to be the most intimate with myself and to, as I saw myself in that mirror
Yeah.
18 years ago, when I saw myself in that mirror and thinking to myself, I, I see you. I see that naked, true part of myself. And I really like that human. It changed how I treated myself. It changed what I did. It raised the bar insofar as how I
Beautiful.
behaved. And that's wonderful,
Yes.
because I was making healthy choices for
Mhm.
this girl, this woman that I was like, oh, but I really respect you and I want to take care of you. And
Mhm.
so I think that, again, like you said, when you go to retreat, you meet yourself and you see yourself and you realize, like, I can have a relationship with this person
Yeah.
or not. And and if I choose to have a relationship with this person because this is my best friend for life, right
Yeah.
here, you know.
Gotta leave it behind the door. Not happening.
Oh. And a lot of the time we wake up, that's how we're behaving. It's like, ugh, just don't let me deal with that person in the mirror.
Yes,
But
I
when
know.
we can learn to fall in love with that person, there's a quality that shines through that human being that no product or no collagen powder or no supplement is going to give you.
Yeah.
And it's radiance.
Mm.
It's radiance.
Yeah.
And I touch it every time I teach, every time I practice, every time. And you can feel it. There's a radiance that just you can then take back out. Now, it doesn't last a really long time unless you allow yourself to touch upon it and know, like, I can come back to that again and again and again.
This was supposed to be my next question because, well, there must be some little secret which you might share with us. But like we spoke about retreat and we
Yeah.
spoke about this whole feeling and even the physical, beautifying effect of the retreat. But then you go home,
Mm.
you go back to your business as a whole, the home, the kids, the business, da, da, da. What's the secret or an advice or a trick to keep it at least a little bit longer than 2 days,
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
there something I can do to help myself to keep this vibrancy for myself for a bit longer?
Yeah. I think it's just knowing. I think once you've had that experience, similar to what you said you felt 3 years ago, for you, it's
Yeah,
like a no brainer to come to Bali because you're like, I've touched
yeah,
that. Like, I
yeah,
know now what that feels like. So
yeah,
I know what I need to do and I know what I'm going to get from this net experience. You have an insight.
yeah.
And so once you've touched upon this experience, it's like having tasted something for the first time and or being in a relationship that's so profound and you and unique. Once you've touched that, you know what's possible. So, two things I think I would say to that. When you come back from a retreat, you are inherently changed, and we're changing all the time. It's a
Yeah.
misconception that we don't change. You're changing all the time, but you're changing in a really positive, healthy way. And so you bring that energy back and you come back to the same context, whether it's chaotic, whether it's complex, whether it's fractious, everybody else is still on the same wavelength potentially as how they were when you left that experience. So you come back into that same space, but you're bringing a new energy, a new perspective, a new vision, and people meet you where you are. So what you tend to find is you come back to your home or your house. And rarely have I heard anybody say to me, I came home and it was just a disaster. Because, or even worse, like I had to go back to reality. People are quite apprehensive when they leave a retreat to go back to reality, but there's no going back and there's no other reality. You're just this new expression of yourself. And so, what tends to happen is you go back to your reality or you go forward into the future reality that you're returning to and you're feeling grounded and suddenly you feel like the people around you potentially are more grounded. Or you're feeling a little open and you'll notice that people around you will start to be more open. And it's just reflecting the quality of how you're feeling in yourself. And so naturally, your whole quality of life is upgrading, and it's only upgrading not because you've done anything aesthetic, but because you're carrying
Yeah.
that energy into whichever room, whichever space and place you're moving into. Now that energy will invariably be slowly hammered down. It's what happens when we don't have these tools and practices on a consistent basis. So the second part of that is, I always say to people, when you get back, please try to connect with your local studio or a teacher that resonates or something, so that you can just keep that consistency, so you have something to maintain throughout your week that just allows you to touch upon the quality and know that it's there. So I do say to people, it's important to know that you have these practices, and a lot of people will invariably go back to their respective lives and not necessarily go to a yoga class frequently, but certainly do something different and
Yeah.
something new. And
Mm.
at the same time, whatever is happening, you just find that most of the time people will come back and go, I did the thing, or this beautiful woman that was on our last retreat who was well into her late 60s, early 70s. Her husband had passed away. Her children were well grown. She was completely lost. She was making decisions for being around her grandchildren. She came back from retreat, she feeling more energized and more loved than ever, and invariably met this wonderful man in this Greek god who's about her age, and they're having this incredible life and cycling all around Europe. And then I had another woman that came back, and she was like, I'm going to move to the Philippines. I'm going to start teaching again in the Philippines. And just big decisions, and you, because you're clear and you feel empowered and you feel grounded, and you take that with you, and your children feel it, your family feels it, everybody benefits from it. And the people that are stressed out or a little bit afflicted by, like, oh God, because they're probably feeling within themselves tired or depleted or frustrated, or those people invariably kind of either will meet you, or they'll
Yeah.
change shape and form. And that's just the nature of energy. It's just how we operate.
And
So
beautiful, right? I mean, change is beautiful always.
change is beautiful. And it could be something so subtle. I'll give you
Mm.
another example. I had an amazing woman who had a multi tiered organization. She was the CEO of a huge organization. She left our retreat recently and came back to her respective company and just shape shifted everything.
Oh,
And so the whole culture internally in her organization changed. I had somebody else that was experiencing like workplace bullying and was going through a really horrific time with harassment. She came back and everything changed. And everything changed because she was grounded and empowered. It
yeah.
didn't change because that person's behavior changed.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. She
So
did change and her energy shifted. So,
yeah,
as this beautiful saying, first your energy enters the room and then you enter the room. So this is the answer at some point.
true, and that's really what happens, and that's why we work with energy. I work with energy because I believe that it's everything, and my energy is determining the magnetism of our conversations. For want of a better fun, that's
Yeah.
what's determining it. And your energy is ricocheting off mine, and it's just heaven. And this is how life should be. It should be interactive and juicy and engaging, and
For
give
sure.
us life.
Hmm.
It's yoga is about touching upon what it is to be truly alive.
Mm.
And I think most of us are really trying hard to figure out what happened to our aliveness.
Yeah.
And I think that if we can find something or experience something that gives us that sense of what it is to feel alive again, then we know that it's there, and we know we haven't lost it. We know that it's not based on our biology or our age or our damage or our trauma, but actually there's an aliveness. It's there. We are worthy of feeling that aliveness, and when you touch upon that, everything else starts to feel more real and more beautiful and more inspiring.
Oh my God, this is so amazing, Jess. Thank you so much for your time
It was
and
just so nice.
insights. And it's like I'm already inspired, like listening to you. This is amazing. And I want just to leave a side note for my listeners that Jess and my beloved friend Yava are organizing a retreat in Sri Lanka in
October.
October. Thank you. And I will leave more information and links after the podcast.
Yes.
So, yeah, and it's an amazing opportunity because it's going to be about yoga, deep rest, relaxation. So, everything we need today, right?
Everything we need today. And also, you're going to learn a lot of really practical tools and skills
Oh, that's
to
good.
help you sleep better, to help you dream better, to help you have more energy consistently throughout the day so that you're not spiking up and
Yeah.
down, to feel that quality of being alive, also to feel grounded, also to feel inspired by yourself, to be quiet with yourself. So these are skills that there's no way you won't leave and be like, oh God, I've got a whole ritual and rhythm now that I can use that's going to enhance every other part of my life. So if you're curious about what are the kind of rhythms, rituals, skills, tools that I can work with that are going to help to enhance my reality daily, then it's going to be a really helpful retreat for people.
This is awesome. And thank you so much again. And see you in Bali in a few weeks.
I can't wait. I'll see you soon, my dear. Have a
Bye.
beautiful
Can't wait
afternoon.
to hug you. Bye,
So
Bella.
nice. Ciao, Shetty.
Ciao, ciao.